You've seen the sermons. The Matrix as Christ reborn in bullet time, as Gnostic myth, as a buffet of Western philosophy laid out for the taking, but few ever speak of it as a Zen parable. We drift through this world, overcomplicating what was never meant to be complex. Philosophy, relationships, interfaces, character building games, chasing our own thoughts in tightening loops until the noise drowns out the signal. What pulled me into Zen, and I had no choice in the matter, is the single blade that cuts through every knot. You are not your mind, just as Eckhart Tolle named it in the opening strike of The Power of Now. And that, brothers and sisters, is precisely what the Matrix is about. Sup, you beautiful cattle grazing in the fields of your mechanical overlords. It's your boy Locust again, the guy that your girl calls the One, stepping into the construct for our first true philosophical deep dive into the realm of film via the 1999 cyberpunk scripture known as The Matrix. Before we tear the plug from your skull and free your mind, I'm going to ask you to do a few things. Liberate yourself from the illusion of inertia. Smash that like button. Subscribe. Ring that bell so the next time the agents come to touch your private parts and molest your mind, you're already awake. Now, let's awaken. The Matrix operates as a modern Zen transmission disguised in industrial boots and green code. It does not preach non-duality, it drags you through it. From the fractal zero at the opening, through ego pods that aren't even sealed, to the final flight, the Matrix walks us through the exact process of waking up, the rude rupture, the ego's desperate clinging, and the traitors who see the truth and still choose the stake. And the moment the mind stops resisting and simply sees. At its heart, the simulation is saṃsāra, a prison sustained by conditioned perception, duality, and the belief in the separate self. Neo's path is not about escaping the code, but realizing that there is no fundamental separation between the dreamer and the dream. Thomas Anderson, trapped in his cubicle, is every one of us running on autopilot. Neo is what remains when that illusion dissolves, and furthermore, transcends into the One. This is not another breakdown. This is a scene-by-scene walk through the film as a living Zen teaching. We're plugging in together. Red pill first. Wake up, Neo. The Matrix has you. Section 1. Entering the Dream. Fractals, Code, and the Initial Call. The film does not ease you in. It opens by sucking you straight into a zero made of cascading green code, fractals folding inside fractals, a literal matrix hidden inside the numbers themselves. Before a single character speaks, the Wachowskis are already telling you that the world is recursive, self-referential, and layered far beyond ordinary perception. In Buddhist thought, there is a concept called Indra's net, an infinite web with a jewel at every intersection. Each jewel reflecting every other jewel, and within each reflection, more reflections stretching out forever. Nothing exists independently. Every part contains the whole. For those familiar with holographic universe theory, this should sound eerily familiar. The idea that reality is encoded in such a way that each fragment carries information about the larger totality. Two radically different vocabularies, ancient mysticism and modern theoretical physics, circling the same intuition. Reality is far less separate and far more interpenetrating than it appears. That ties directly into śūnyatā, or emptiness, which does not mean blank nothingness, but that nothing possesses an isolated permanent essence. Everything exists conditionally and dependently. The Matrix is not presenting us a fake world so much as a mentally rendered one, a dream generating itself through recursive connection. Then the first direct intrusion happens. Wake up, Neo. The Matrix has you. A computer message, simple and cold, but it manifests like a spiritual alarm clock. Neo is not being told new information here. He is being told what some deeper layer of him already suspects. Morpheus later gives that suspicion language when he asks, "Ever have that feeling where you're not sure if you're awake or still dreaming?" That line frames Thomas Anderson's entire life as a dream state. The ego moving through routines, obligations, and social roles without ever examining the consciousness underneath them. The White Rabbit follows, and this is where the movie starts behaving like a Zen teacher. Trinity sends the message from outside the Matrix, but it manifests perfectly inside the code. Neo sees the tattoo at exactly the right moment and follows. Now, this is not a random coincidence, it is the classic finger pointing at the moon.
My finger points.
A sign planted inside the illusion by those who already know the illusion is there. That immediately leads Neo to the central question of the film. What is the Matrix? And what makes that question so crucial is that it really is just a science fiction skin over the oldest spiritual inquiry there is. What is this? What am I? Most importantly, what is consciousness? Morpheus never gives him a conceptual answer because concept is not the point. Like any real teacher, he understands that explanations can only take someone so far. Neo has to be maneuvered into seeing. Meanwhile, Thomas Anderson's everyday life quietly reinforces the same imprisonment. He is a cubicle drone in a literal maze of gray office walls being lectured by a boss who tells him that every employee is part of a whole. The irony is beautiful. Neo is already living inside a human battery farm before he even sees the pods. Even visually, he is dressed in the same black tie and white shirt as the agents, as he already belongs to the system. He just doesn't know it yet. By the time Morpheus offers him the first real choice, leap on faith or surrender to authority, the movie has already planted the full teaching in the miniature. The dream is layered. The call to wake up has begun. The signs are appearing. And Thomas Anderson, like most people buried in routine, is only starting to realize that the walls around him may not be walls at all. Section 2. Interrogation mirrors authority and the first taste of no self. Neo gets dragged into the white, sterile interrogation room wearing the exact same black tie and white shirt as the agents. The only thing missing is the suit jacket and the sunglasses that mark full authority. Visually, the film is already making the point before anyone opens their mouth. Neo is not some outsider standing apart from the system. He is dressed as part of it. Thomas Anderson is a compliant node inside the machine pretending that he is an individual. Agent Smith lays the two identities on the table. Thomas A. Anderson has a future because he plays by the rules. Neo, the outlaw, does not. This is the first explicit split between conditioned self and awakened self, between the identity that survives through obedience and the identity that only survives through disobedience. Then, Neo does something important. He asks for a phone call. He appeals to rights, procedure, and language. All the little contractual protections the social self assumes are stable. The Matrix responds by erasing his mouth entirely. It is one of the most disturbing moments in the film because the system does not simply silence him, it reveals that the rules he thought governed the game were never real to begin with. The moment authority is challenged directly, authority rewrites the terms. This is Neo's first real taste of no self. His ability to speak, protest, define, and defend himself gets swallowed by the code in seconds. The old Thomas Anderson instinct is still trying to negotiate with the prison as if the Matrix is fair. The Matrix answers by showing him that fairness was part of the hallucination. When Morpheus later tells him over the phone, "You are the one, Neo," it sounds absurd to the ego because the ego still thinks in terms of personal capability. How could this office drone possibly be anything special? But at a deeper level, the line functions as recognition, not praise. Morpheus is not handing him an achievement badge. He is pointing towards a truth Neo cannot yet inhabit. That is why this whole interrogation sequence matters so much. Neo sees himself mirrored in the agent's uniform. He sees legal identity held up against his outlaw identity. He sees the system casually erase the very mouth he planned to defend himself with. By the time the scene is over, the illusion that he stands outside the Matrix looking in has already started collapsing. He's not confronting an external machine yet. He's confronting how deeply the machine has already shaped his sense of self. Section 3. The Red Pill. Rude Awakening. Dissolution of the Ego and Residual Self-Image. Neo makes the choice. He swallows the red pill. What follows is not a gentle yoga retreat or some softly lit guru montage. It is violent, mechanical, and terrifying. The mirror liquefies, the goo overtakes him, and he gets ripped screaming out of the pod before being flushed down into the real world like industrial waste. Spiritual awakening, at least in its initial stages, is almost never the serene Hallmark commercial people imagine. It is rupture. It is disorientation. It is the collapse of everything familiar before anything stable has replaced it. Then Neo opens his eyes and sees the field of human pods stretching endlessly into darkness, each body suspended in its own separate shell, each mind plugged into the same dream. The symbol is almost painfully obvious. These pods are the ego made visible. Every occupant appears isolated, self-contained, cut off from the others, reinforcing the illusion of separate selves. But what's most striking is that the pods aren't even sealed. The trap is barely physical at all. The real imprisonment is identification, the unconscious belief that you are the shell instead of what is housed within it. It's like if a car thought it was the windshield and all the splattered insects decorating it on your road trip to hell. The original mind, or consciousness, was never truly locked in. It only believed it was. That's why this quote coming up is crucial. Neo asks, "Why do my eyes hurt?" Morpheus answers, "Because you've never used them before." Awakening does not give Neo new information so much as it gives him a new mode of seeing. Ordinary conditioned perception is beginning to get replaced by direct insight. The world has not changed, consciousness has. Inside the construct, the blank white loading program, Morpheus introduces the idea of residual self-image. The clothes you wear, the face you recognize. The version of yourself you instinctively continue to inhabit inside the Matrix are all mental projections. And the quote goes, "Everything is electrical signals interpreted by your brain." In other words, identity itself is still software. Neo may be unplugged physically, but psychologically, Thomas Anderson is still lingering like cached data that hasn't fully cleared. That is why Neo vomits after the downloads begin. His system is receiving information and it is reacting to the violent mismatch between the old conditioning and new awareness. Morpheus then gives him one of the bleakest truths in the film. We never free a mind once it's reached a certain age. It's dangerous. The mind has trouble letting go, and of course it does. The longer the conditioning has been rehearsed, the more the person starts feeling like personality. Habits harden into selfhood. Neurological grooves start masquerading as destiny. The ego would rather cling to a familiar nightmare than step barefoot into unknown freedom. This is where the red pill stops being a cool symbol and becomes something much more uncomfortable. Awakening is not clean. It is nauseating, humiliating, and deeply destabilizing. And yet these pods were never truly locked. The only thing holding anyone inside was the unconscious conviction that there was no way out. Section 4. Training in the construct, Know You Are, No Mind, and Cutting Through Illusion. Neo downloads decades of martial arts in a few seconds, opens his eyes, and says the line every 12-year-old boy in 1999 wanted to say, "I know Kung Fu." But the deeper implication isn't that Neo learned how to fight, it's the information, skill, and action no longer being treated as something separate from him. The barrier between practitioner and practice is already starting to thin. He doesn't slowly acquire techniques, he plugs into it. Morpheus immediately pushes the lesson further. You think that's air you're breathing? That sentence has almost nothing to do with oxygen and everything to do with unquestioned assumptions. Neo still treats the Matrix as solid, external, and authoritative. A world with hard laws he must obey. Morpheus is trying to show him that most of what governs his experience is accepted mentally long before it is experienced physically, which is why his next instruction is even more simple. Do not think you are, know you are. Western thought built entire civilizations on "I think, therefore I am." Zen cuts that sentence in half and leaves the corpse spazzing out from rigor mortis on the floor. Simply put, I am. Before the thought, before the label, before Thomas Anderson. Morpheus can't explain this all day, but explanation is useless without collision. So he loads Neo into the jump program. Rooftops. Massive drop. One impossible leap. Free your mind. Neo hesitates, runs, jumps, and plummets. Not because gravity beat him, but because belief did. He still believes in height. He still believes in consequences. He still believes the rules are rules. And as long as a mind grants solidity to illusion, illusion behaves as solid. That is the whole spiritual problem in miniature. Fear, doubt, disbelief, they are not reactions to the prison, they are the prison. Every Zen teacher, every mystic, every wrathful deity with a sword is trying to perform the same surgery. Sever the mind's automatic obedience to appearances. Neo's war is not with the buildings, the bullets, or the agents. It is with his reflexive faith in limitation. So, when he asks the obvious question, if you're killed in the Matrix, do you die here? Morpheus gives him the answer, the body cannot live without the mind. Meaning, the simulation only rules because consciousness consents to the simulation. The moment consciousness stops consenting, the walls begin to shake. Neo is no longer learning facts about the Matrix now. He's learning that the prison has been partially maintained by his own unquestioned participation in it. Section 5. Temptation, Agents, and Transcending the Rules. Non-resistance, Co-creation, and the True One. Back in the training program, Morpheus freezes the simulation and points out the woman in the red dress moving through a sea of black and white bodies. She's not just there because the Wachowskis knew teenage boys would be paying attention, though let's be honest, they did. She represents the oldest trick in the ego's playbook: distraction through form. In a world built on binary restraint and mechanical repetition, a sudden flash of beauty, sex, color, and desire yanks Neo's awareness right back into surface fascination. 1 second of fixation is all it takes, and he misses the agent standing directly in front of him. It is a lesson about how easily awareness gets pulled out of presence and re-entangled in appearances. The ego does not need elaborate chains to keep you trapped. Usually, a shiny enough object will do. Morpheus pushes the lesson further by explaining that anyone still fully plugged into the Matrix can become an agent at any time. This is one of the film's nastier little truths. The unawakened do not merely live inside the prison, they unconsciously defend it. Any person still identified with the system becomes a potential extension of the system. Sleepers become antibodies against anyone trying to wake up. Then comes one of the most important lines about power in the entire movie. Their strength and their speed are still based in a world built on rules. Because of that, they will never be as strong or as fast as you can be. The line shifts the conflict entirely. The agent seemed omnipotent because Neo is still treating the rules as rules. Morpheus is trying to get him to understand that every apparent limitation inside the Matrix derives its authority from the same source, belief in the solidity of the framework. The system only feels absolute when consciousness keeps relating to it as absolute. This is where the film starts quietly introducing the idea of co-creation. Neo is not merely navigating a hostile environment from the inside. His mind is participating in how that environment is rendered and experienced. Awakening is not just escape. Awakening is realizing how much unconscious authorship you had in the prison's continued stability. That brings us to the bullet dodging exchange. Neo asks, "What are you trying to tell me? That I can dodge bullets?" Morpheus answers, "No, Neo, I'm trying to tell you that when you're ready, you won't have to." And that is one of the most non-dual lines in the film. The lesson is no longer about becoming faster than the bullets, stronger than the agents, or more technically competent inside the game. The lesson is about no longer granting ultimate reality to the forces you think are opposing you. This is pure Wu Wei, non-resistance. It is also the exact symbolic function of wrathful deities like Fudo Mil. Fudo stands there with a sword, but the sword is not really for external enemies. It cuts through elements such as fear, doubt, attachment, and lust. The internal illusions that make external enemies appear all-powerful in the first place. Neo is being trained for the same surgery. The real opponent is not the bullet, it is the consciousness still bowing to the bullet as law. Once that internal obedience begins to break, the entire field starts behaving differently. Neo's war is still not with the agents themselves, it is with consciousness that keeps treating the simulation as immovable fact. Morpheus is slowly training him to stop fighting the Matrix as an external enemy and start seeing it as a participatory illusion whose power depends on his continued unconscious submission to it. Section 6. The Betrayer Cypher and the Seduction of Ignorance. Cypher might be the most fascinating character in the entire film. We meet him in the real world, but his mind is still half plugged in. He's mastered the code so deeply that he no longer sees green symbols raining down the monitors. In his words, "I don't even see code anymore," he says. "All I see is blonde, brunette, redhead." He has pierced the illusion and chosen to go back in anyways. And it shows him sharing a drink that, quote-unquote, kills brain cells as he passes it to Neo. It is literal and symbolic mind poison. While handing over the drink, Cypher plants the first seeds of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. You see an agent, you run your ass off. Not transcendence, retreat. Later, in the famous steak dinner with Agent Smith, Cypher delivers one of the most scummy lines in cinema. "You know, I know this steak doesn't exist. I know that when I put it in my mouth, the Matrix is telling my brain that it is juicy and delicious. After 9 years, you know what I realize? Ignorance is bliss." He makes the deal. Betray Morpheus, and as a result, reinsert himself into the Matrix as someone rich and important. Like an actor. With all memory erased, he wants the comfortable lie. This is what makes Cypher such a compelling villain. He is not ignorant. He has seen the code. He has seen the truth. And he still chooses the steak. He's the awakened one who consciously returns to attachment. In Zen terms, this is one of the most dangerous positions possible. Glimpsing liberation and then turning back towards saṃsāra because the ego's comfort feels safer than freedom. Section 7. Taste, Conditioning, and the Trap of Impulse. What real really means. While the crew eats their bland, nutrient-rich slop on the Nebuchadnezzar, Mouse can't help but pontificate with Neo. How did the machines know what tasty wheat tasted like, huh? He asks. Maybe they got it wrong. Maybe what I think tasty wheat tasted like actually tasted like oatmeal. or tuna fish. He goes on about chicken tasting like everything because machines couldn't quite nail it. This rant exposes how the Matrix goes beyond simulating a world. It implants conditioning and expectations directly into the unconscious. Reality is not discovered, it is imposed. The simulation tells your brain what things should taste, feel, and mean, and the mind obediently fills in the gaps. This is exactly how our conditioning works in daily life. You start ordering matcha with sweetener because bitter tastes unpleasant. Then one day, you learn to enjoy the bitterness itself. Your tolerance for sugar drops. Soon, you're ordering it straight, no additives. Same with drinking alcohol neat instead of loading it with mixers. You stop lying to yourself about drinking poison. Deconditioning reveals raw reality. Then Mouse drops his famous line. To deny our impulses is to deny the very thing that makes us human. Mouse represents raw lust, sensory indulgence, and the creative, id-driven side of the ego. You do not have to destroy desire, but you cannot let it run the show. This whole sequence drives home a crucial point. Even after you see the code, the old conditioning still whispers. The taste of steak, the pull of desire, the comfort of the known. They all try to pull you back into the dream. Cypher chooses the illusion consciously. Mouse defends the impulses that make the illusion seductive in the first place. One chooses the steak, the other justifies the appetite. Together, they expose the same uncomfortable reality. The prison does not survive on chains alone. It survives because part of us still finds the dream delicious. Section 8. False memories, ego stories, and the Oracle's role dying to the past. Neo sits with Trinity and finally says out loud what's been haunting him since the red pill. I have these memories from my life. None of them happened. What does that mean? Trinity answers, the Matrix cannot tell you who you are, and that line cuts much deeper than it seems at first. Neo is beginning to realize that Thomas Anderson is not just a false job title or a fake office identity. His entire autobiographical sense of self is compromised. The memories, the narrative, the little file in his head labeled me. All of it is suddenly unstable. This is the ego story starting to crack. The mind loves to build identity out of accumulated memories, traumas, victories, embarrassments, and labels. But Zen has always insisted that none of that is the real you. The self that can be narrated is not the self that is aware. Neo is being pushed toward the great death here. The death of psychological continuity as identity. Then the film sends him straight to the Oracle, and this is where things get even more interesting because the Oracle is not outside the Matrix at all. She is a program inside the system. Morpheus is the teacher who points from beyond the illusion, but the Oracle is a teacher who works from within it. She doesn't rip Neo out of the dream, she manipulates the dream itself using ordinary conversation, small gestures, and half-truths to move him towards realization. She is less prophet and more Zen trickster. The spoon scene is the obvious centerpiece. Do not try and bend the spoon, that is impossible. Instead, only try to realize the truth. There is no spoon. It's one of the most quoted lines in the film because it lands the entire non-dual thesis in plain English. Neo keeps approaching reality as subject versus object, self versus world, mind versus matter. The Spoon Boy cuts straight through that split. The issue is not changing the object out there, the issue is changing the consciousness relating to it. When awareness shifts, the apparent solidity of the world shifts with it. Form is emptiness, emptiness is form. The Oracle keeps the same lesson going in subtler ways. Neo knocks over the vase only after she mentions it. Would you have still broken it if I hadn't said anything? The question is doing two things at once. On one level, it exposes how reactive and programmed Neo still is. He is still moving inside conditioned cues. On the other, it hints at one of the film's reoccurring ideas, that observation itself, participates in rendering experience. In other words, the double-slit experiment. Neo still thinks he is independently navigating the world. The Oracle keeps nudging him towards the realization that he is co-creating the very field he thinks he is passively moving through. Then she lowers the hammer with 2 lines. The first, being the one, is just like being in love. No one can tell you you're in love. You just know it. That immediately removes enlightenment from the realm of abstract theory and places it in the realm of direct inner recognition. Love is one of the few experiences people understand without needing external proof. You know when it arrives. Unity consciousness works the same way. It is not an argument to win. It is something you suddenly recognize as more intimate than thought. Then comes the real knife. You've got the gift, but it looks like you're waiting for something. There it is, the ego's final hustle. Waiting to become worthy, waiting to become awakened, waiting to become the one. The implication is brutal. Neo is not missing the truth because he lacks the capacity. He is missing it because some part of him is still treating realization as a future external event rather than a present fact happening within. And then, after all this prophecy and metaphysical disorientation, she hands him a cookie. That is not a throwaway grandma gesture, by the way. It's one of the most Zen moments in the film. After all the lofty talk about destiny, selfhood, and death, the teaching returns to something simple, ordinary, and embodied. Here, eat this. Awakening does not happen somewhere outside of the mundane world. It happens in the middle of kitchens, conversations, broken vases, and homemade cookies. The sacred does not replace the ordinary, it reveals itself through it. By the time Neo leaves the apartment, the movie has quietly moved him closer to the edge. He came in asking who he is, however, he leaves with a far more uncomfortable realization. The thing he keeps waiting to become may require the death of the one doing the waiting. Or, in other words, the ego. Section 9. The Betrayal and Raid. Breaking walls, acceptance, and transcendent code. The Dark Knight arrives, because spiritual lessons are always cute until the bodies hit the floor. Morpheus, in a final act of protection, literally smashes through a concrete wall to confront Agent Smith head-on. It's raw, forceful, bodhisattva action. The teacher trying to break barriers of consciousness with his bare hands in a desperate attempt to buy time. But he still gets rocked. It looks as though even the teacher is not fully beyond the rules yet. Morpheus can point to freedom, embody faith, and crash through walls like a bald black Kool-Aid man of enlightenment, but he still bleeds inside the system. During the chaos, he gives us one of the first NPC disses in media. You all look the same to me.
We are here to support the current thing.
The current thing is inevitable.
You're all supporting it.
Support the current thing. Support the current thing. Support the current thing. Support the current thing.
Also reinforcing the point that Neo is no longer dealing with distinct personalities. He is dealing with interchangeable functions of control. The prison has many faces, but one mind. Apoc is the first to fall. He is the one who hands Neo his first real gun. His death marks the end of training wheel spirituality. The philosophical dojo is over. The bullets are live now. Then comes Switch's final line. Not like this. Not like this. This is one of the clearest moments of resistance to what is in the entire film. Notice she is not resisting death in some abstract sense. She is resisting the form in which death has arrived. The mind is still negotiating with reality, still insisting that this should be happening in some other way. And that is where so much human suffering lives. Not merely in pain itself, but the second arrow of this is not how I wanted it. By the way, I have a video going into depth about the two arrows through the lens of survival horror games linked in the cards. Zen's radical acceptance is not passive resignation, but the refusal to waste awareness, arguing with the shape the moment has taken once it is already here. Switch cannot do that. She dies in protest. Then Trinity gets her own test. Neo appears to be a dead man walking. Morpheus is captured, the crew is shattered, everything external says the mission has failed. She has one thing left to stand on: belief. Unlike Cypher, she does not crawl backward into doubt, she chooses faith anyway. Cypher then gives us his final little crisis of faith while pulling the plugs. If Morpheus is right, then there's no way I can pull this plug. If Neo's the one, there's got to be some kind of miracle to stop me, right? And then he stopped. This is the first clear sign that the code is no longer behaving in a closed mechanical system. Something deeper is moving now. Call it a miracle, call it providence, call it awakened consciousness beginning to ripple across layers of dimensions. Whatever language you prefer, the point is the same. The Matrix is no longer fully self-contained. That is what makes this whole raid sequence the true dark night of the soul for the entire crew. Up until now, the teachings have been conceptual, symbolic, and instructional. Here they become experiential. Walls are broken, bodies drop, betrayal lands, hope gets strangled, and every person involved is forced to reveal what they actually trust when the philosophy stops sounding pretty. Neo is no longer just trying to understand the Matrix at this point. He's being dragged into the furnace where understanding either becomes embodiment or dies with everyone else. Section 10. Agent Smith's interrogation. Suffering, attachment, and the Matrix's fractured awakening. Agent Smith sits across a captured Morpheus and delivers one of the most brutally honest monologues in the film. He says, "Some believed we lacked the programming language to describe your perfect world. But I believe that as a species, human beings define their reality through misery and suffering. So, the perfect world was a dream that your primitive cerebrum kept trying to wake up from. Which is why the Matrix was designed to this. The peak of your civilization." Did you catch that? Because the Wachowskis are letting the villain say the quiet part out loud. The machines did not fail to create paradise because they were technologically limited. They failed because the human mind itself is conditioned towards dukkha, dissatisfaction, friction, craving, and low-grade misery. The painless world felt unreal because the suffering had already become part of humanity's operating system. We could not digest heaven because attachment had trained us to hunger for contrast, struggle, and incompleteness. That changes the Matrix from a simple machine prison into something much more uncomfortable, a co-authored prison. The system works not just because it controls people, but because people unconsciously resonate with the very frequencies that keep the system stable. Lack, desire, anxiety, conflict, all these elements give humanity a frictionless Eden, and some buried part of the psyche starts scratching at the walls because peace feels unfamiliar. Then Smith doubles down. This is the peak of your civilization. That line is almost sarcastically perfect. Massive buildings, endless stimulation, polished surfaces, perpetual low-grade misery. In other words, modernity. The Matrix is not simply a fake reality, it is a reality custom-tailored to the human tendency to seek itself through dissatisfaction. Then he gives us the line, "Human beings are a disease, and we are the cure." This is where Smith reveals his own limitation. He can correctly diagnose suffering, but because he is still trapped in binary logic, he only knows one answer: control, suppression, elimination. Cure the disease by dominating it. This is duality, trying to solve duality with more duality. Neo's path will reveal an alternative truth. Liberation does not come through tighter control of the system, but through seeing that the separate self the system manipulates was unstable from the beginning. As Neo begins to awaken, Smith almost instantly stirs with him. Their movements become synchronized. This is more than just a coincidence, it is the kind of quantum entanglement or mirror dynamic and EPR paradox for you science heads out there. Neo's awakening stirs something inside the system itself. Smith's hatred grows visceral. It's the smell. I feel saturated by it. I can taste your stink, and every time I do, I fear that somehow I've been infected by it. I must get out of here. I must get free. Notice the language. I feel, I can taste, I fear. These are birth cries of the ego. Smith is the Matrix, yet the Matrix is beginning to hate itself. A fractured psyche is emerging. The system is having its own dark night of the soul, developing self-awareness through aversion and separation. Neo's awakening is forcing the collective consciousness of the Matrix to confront its own conditioning. Smith becomes the tragic mirror of Neo. Where Neo moves towards unity, Smith moves towards ego and hatred. Both are expressions of the same underlying reality waking up. One through love and recognition, the other through fear and rejection. This interrogation scene is the thesis validation from the mouth of the antagonist. The prison was never just the machines, it was the mind's addiction to suffering and separation. And now the system itself is starting to feel the pain of its own illusions and wants to get out of itself. The cure Smith offers is control rooted in separation and fear. The cure Neo will offer is freedom rooted in unconditional love and abundance. By the way, I have a pretty awesome video on abundance taught through the lens of survival horror linked in the cards as well. It also gives a definition to the ego, which I don't really get into in this video. The final stretch begins with Morpheus' leap of faith. He breaks his handcuffs and jumps across a building, but he still gets shocked. Even the teacher is not fully beyond the rules yet. His leap is sincere, but incomplete. It gets clipped. This is the moment the mentee must become the mentor. Morpheus could only point the path, now Neo has to embody it. Neo's intuitive understanding is already beginning to kick in. He plays tug of war with helicopters defying some hardcore physics in the process. Pure knowing, no thinking. Morpheus had said it earlier. There's a difference between knowing the path and walking the path. However, I say, Neo is no longer just walking it, he is beginning to become the path. In the final showdown, Smith, still clinging to duality, dead names him one last time. Goodbye, Mr. Anderson. He addresses the office drone, the legal identity, the ego construct that functioned inside the Matrix. The false self is being laid to rest. Neo's response is a declaration. My name is Neo. This is not a mere comeback, it is a claim of true identity. But declaration alone is not enough. The film makes sure to kill him before it grants him transcendence. And that is where Trinity faces her own test. With Neo lying dead, Morpheus powerless, and the machines closing in on the Nebuchadnezzar crew like a pack of wild hyenas, and every external sign screaming failure, she chooses belief anyway. I am not afraid anymore. Fear belongs to the separate self, the part of consciousness still clinging to outcome, control, and survival. In this moment, she steps into unconditional love. One of my favorite songs by J-pop artist Monari Iwakita has a lyric in a song appropriately titled Uni, that when translated is something along the lines of, love is the hidden code of the cosmos, and this moment in the movie defines that lyric perfectly. She kisses him, speaks life back into him, and the hidden code beneath the code responds. Neo rises, and when he rises, he does not rise as a better fighter, he rises empty. Now the bullets stop in midair. Now he sees the code. Now the spoon bends. Now Agent Smith is no longer an enemy to overpower, but a pattern to pass through. Morpheus declares that he's the one. But I think that title gets misunderstood if we hear it like a standard Chosen One prophecy language. Neo is not the one because he won some cosmic lottery. He is the one because duality has collapsed. He He is no longer relating to reality as subject versus object, self versus world. He is literally one with the field he once thought he was trapped inside. That is unity consciousness, not superhero favoritism. So when Neo delivers that final phone call, a world without rules and controls, without borders or boundaries, a world where anything is possible. He's going beyond threatening the machines here. He is restating the spiritual thesis of the entire film. Borders and boundaries are ego constructs. Rules and controls only remain absolute so long as consciousness keeps obeying them as absolute. Neo hangs up the phone, defies physics, and takes flight, and returns to the same choice Morpheus once offered him. Keep obeying the walls, or start asking whether they were even solid to begin with. So in the end, The Matrix is not really a film about evil machines enslaving humanity, at least at its deepest level. That's just the science fiction skin. Underneath it, it is a film about identification with thought, with memory, with social roles, with fear, with the endless internal narration that keeps telling you who you are and what the world allowed you to be. Neo's victory is not that he becomes stronger than the Matrix, it is that he finally stops granting unquestioned authority to the mental framework that made the Matrix possible in the first place. And that is what makes the film endure nearly 3 decades later, because most people are still living exactly where Thomas Anderson lived, buried in routine, hypnotized by labels, mistaking inherited programming for identity, and defending invisible cages as if they were natural law. The red pill is not a one-time cinematic gimmick, it is the ongoing willingness to ask the most destabilizing question a human can ask. What if the walls I keep obeying are at least partially made of thought? That is the real awakening the film points towards. Not flying through the sky in a black trench coat, though admittedly, that part is still fucking awesome. It's the slow, uncomfortable recognition that you are not the mind, not the story your memories keep reciting, not the conditioned reflexes that tell you where your limits are. You are the universe manifested in physical form. Once that starts to sink in, the bars begin to look a lot less solid than they did before. So, Anon, tell me what it's going to be. The juicy steak, or liberation from samsara?
I think I'm gonna go with the juicy steak.
How do you know that the red pill I'm about to shove down your goddamn throat does not taste like a juicy steak?
Focus again. Shoving things down people's throats.
Well, that's it for today's video. Before I leave you to go kill Racer X, I'm going to ask you to hit that like, that subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications, unless the Matrix has you, and you're fine with that. That's just your soul's journey at the end of the day. Just be sure to unplug every now and then and go touch some grass. I'm Locust, I hope I did this movie justice, and I'll catch all of you amazing starseeds and flower childs in the next vid. Alright, you stupid son of a bitch, I'm gonna fucking kick your ass.